Explorer X here. The names have been changed in these stories for the sake of anonymity. I hope all of you are having a great day, and to those of you booked into an Airbnb, well, good luck. Now, on to the stories. I never believed in ghosts or haunted houses, but that all changed when my girlfriend and I booked an Airbnb for a weekend getaway. The listing was for an old Victorian mansion in the heart of the city, at a price too good to be true. The house had a reputation for being haunted and was rumored to be the site of multiple gruesome murders, but we thought it was just an urban legend. As soon as we arrived, we were greeted by the owner, a mysterious woman who went by the name Emily. She gave us a tour of the house, but something about her made my skin crawl. She had a cold, detached demeanor, and her eyes seemed to be hiding something sinister. My girlfriend and I exchanged worried glances, but we shrugged it off and decided to make the best of our stay. That night, we went to bed early, but we were awakened in the middle of the night by strange noises coming from the hallway. We heard scratching at the door, as if someone was trying to break in. We tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, but the noises only grew louder and more persistent. Later, we got out of bed to investigate. As we opened the door, we were met with a terrifying sight. The hallway was filled with ghostly figures, their eyes empty and soulless. They were reaching out to us, trying to grab us. We slammed the door shut and locked it, but we could still hear them scratching at the door. We were trapped, with no way out. We tried to call for help, but our phones were dead. We were completely at the mercy of these ghostly figures. We knew that we had to get out of there, but the house seemed to be alive and had other plans for us. We spent the whole night trying to find a way out, but every door and window was locked. We were running out of options and time. In the morning, we heard footsteps coming from the hallway and a knock on the door. It was Emily. She had a key, and she smiled and opened the door for us. We were relieved to be out of that house, but as soon as we stepped outside, we realized that we were not in the city anymore. We were standing in a dark forest, and we could see the old Victorian mansion in the distance. We were horrified to realize that we had been trapped in some kind of twisted, alternate reality, and that the house had been using us as pawns in its twisted game. We never spoke about our experience again after that, until now. India is a land of many mysteries and legends, some of which are better left unexplored. This is a story about one such legend, and the horror that my friends and I experienced when we rented an Airbnb in the heart of rural India. We were a group of friends, eager to explore the country and immerse ourselves in its culture. We found an Airbnb listing for a remote village, deep in the heart of the jungle. The house was ancient and made of mud bricks, and the owner, an old man, assured us that it was a safe and traditional place to stay. As soon as we arrived, we could sense that something was not right. The villagers avoided us, and we could see fear in their eyes. We shrugged it off and decided to make the best of our stay. That night, we went to bed early, but we were awakened in the middle of the night by strange noises coming from outside. We heard chanting and drums, and we could see strange lights in the distance. We went outside to investigate, but we found nothing. The next night, the noises were even louder, and we could see that the lights were coming closer. We were terrified, but we didn't know what to do. We decided to leave the next morning, but as soon as we packed our bags, the old man appeared, and he told us that we couldn't leave until the ritual was finished. We were trapped, with no way out. We realized that we had stumbled upon a forbidden ritual, and that the villagers were performing it to appease the spirits of the jungle. We were horrified to know that we were caught in the middle of something we didn't understand, and we didn't know how to react. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, praying that we would make it out alive. In the morning, we woke up to find that the village was deserted, and the house was in ruins. The old man and the villagers were nowhere to be found. None of us have told a soul about this, until emailing you. There's a house in upstate New York that has a reputation for being haunted, and it's been the site of many strange occurrences over the years. It's an old, decrepit mansion that's been abandoned for decades, and it's said that anyone who dares to spend the night there will never be the same again. My friends and I were always fascinated by the idea of ghost hunting and the paranormal, So we decided to rent an Airbnb in the area and see if we could finally uncover the truth about the haunted house. As soon as we arrived, we could feel an eerie presence around the house. We decided to set up our equipment and start investigating. We heard strange noises coming from the house, and we captured some strange readings on our EMF meters. We decided to spend the night in the house, despite the risk. We set up cameras and audio recorders, and we waited for something to happen. At first, everything seemed normal, but then things started to get strange. We heard strange noises coming from the walls and we could feel an icy cold breeze. We started to experience strange hallucinations, like a ghostly figure appearing in front of us. We felt like the house was alive and that it had a mind of its own. As the night went on, the haunting became more intense. We could hear ghostly voices whispering in our ears and we saw strange shadows moving in the darkness. We were terrified and we knew we had to get out of there as soon as possible. We gathered all our equipment and ran out of the house, but it was too late. The house had already taken hold of us, and we knew that we would never be the same again. It was a warm summer evening when my friends and I decided to book an Airbnb in the woods of Dothan, Alabama. We were looking for a quiet and secluded spot to enjoy the beauty of nature and escape the hustle and bustle of the city. We found the perfect listing, a cabin nestled deep in the heart of the woods. The cabin was owned by a woman named Sarah, who promised us a peaceful and relaxing stay. Upon arrival, we were greeted by Sarah and her son, a young boy named Michael. They welcomed us warmly and showed us around the cabin. Everything seemed perfect, the cabin was cozy and the woods were beautiful. We settled in and decided to spend the evening exploring the woods. As we walked deeper into the woods, we stumbled upon an old well. It was abandoned and covered in moss, but something about it caught our attention. We approached the well and peered inside, but it was too dark to see anything. Suddenly, we heard a strange noise coming from the bottom of the well. We couldn't tell what it was, but it sounded like something scratching the walls of the well. We shrugged it off and continued exploring the woods. But as the night went on, the strange noises continued. We heard scratching and whispering coming from the well, and we could see strange lights flickering in the distance. We were starting to get scared, and we decided to head back to the cabin. When we got back, we told Sarah and Michael about the strange noises, but they seemed unfazed. They told us that the well was cursed, and that it was best to stay away from it. They also warned us not to leave the cabin at night, as the woods were not safe. But we didn't understand what they meant by that. We decided to ignore their warning and spend the night in the cabin. But we soon regretted it. During the night, we heard strange noises coming from outside, and we could see shadows moving around the windows. We were terrified and we knew we had to leave as soon as possible. But when we tried to leave the cabin, we found that the door was locked and the windows were barred. We were trapped, and we didn't know what to do. We realized that Sarah and Michael had locked us in the cabin, and they had no intention of letting us leave. We managed to escape through the chimney, but we never spoke about our experience again. We never knew what was going on in that cabin, but we knew that it was not just an ordinary Airbnb. We were lucky to get out alive as a group of friends. We were always fascinated by the idea of ghost hunting and the paranormal. We came across an Airbnb listing for a remote mansion in the woods of Kansas, said to be haunted by the previous owner's family. The owner, Mary, promised us a peaceful and relaxing stay. As soon as we arrived, I couldn't shake off the eerie feeling that enveloped the mansion. The windows were boarded up, and the garden was overgrown. We brushed it off as just our imagination and settled in. That night, I lay in bed listening to the creak of the old mansion and the rustle of leaves outside. I was on the verge of drifting off when I heard scratching at my window. My heart started racing as I got up to investigate. My friends were sound asleep and the scratching continued. I peered through the window and saw nothing but darkness. I shrugged it off as just a branch and tried to sleep again. But the scratching continued throughout the night, growing louder and more persistent. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. I couldn't sleep, my thoughts were consumed by the fear that something was out there, waiting for us. The next day, we decided to explore the mansion and the surrounding woods. As we walked through the halls, we stumbled upon a hidden room. Inside, there was a strange machine that resembled a time machine. We were curious and decided to turn it on, without realizing the consequences. Suddenly, we were transported to a different dimension, a parallel universe. The sky was red with blood, the ground was cracked and dry, and the air was filled with the stench of death. We were surrounded by monsters, and we knew we had to find a way back to our own world. But the machine was broken, and we were trapped. We spent the rest of the day trying to survive and find a way out of this nightmare. We could hear the monsters growling and the screams of the people they had killed. I felt like my mind was going to snap, the fear was overwhelming. We knew that the horrors of this place would never end. As the night fell, we huddled together, praying for a miracle. But the monsters were closing in, and we knew that we wouldn't make it out alive. I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread, knowing that this was the end. But just as the monsters were about to reach us, we were suddenly transported back to the real world. As a group of friends, we were looking for a change of pace and a chance to soak up some sun, so we decided to book an Airbnb in Key West, Florida. The listing was a beachfront villa with a private pool and a beautiful view of the ocean. The owner, a man named Jack, promised us a relaxing and luxurious stay. As soon as we arrived, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and tranquility wash over me. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the warm sun on my skin, and the salty ocean breeze in my hair, all added to the perfect setting. That night, as we sat around the pool, sipping on cocktails, we couldn't help but admire the stunning starry sky. We were in paradise, and we were enjoying every moment of it. But as the night went on, I started to hear strange noises coming from the ocean. It was a low, rumbling sound, unlike anything I had ever heard before. My friends and I tried to ignore it and enjoy the rest of the night, but the noise only grew louder and more persistent. The next day, we decided to investigate and take a walk on the beach. As we got closer to the water, the noise became louder and more distinct. It sounded like something was scratching against the shore. We couldn't see anything, but the sound was so loud that it was almost deafening. We were starting to get scared and we decided to head back to the villa. Once we were back at the villa, we tried to shake off the strange feeling that had come over us on the beach. We decided to spend the day lounging by the pool and enjoying the beautiful weather. But as the day went on, the strange noises continued, and we couldn't ignore them any longer. We decided to go back to the beach and see if we could figure out what was causing the noise. As we walked along the shoreline, we noticed that the sand was moving in a strange way, as if something was burrowing underneath. And then, all of a sudden, the sand erupted, and a giant creature emerged from beneath the ground. It was unlike anything we had ever seen before, a giant sandworm, with sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. We were paralyzed with fear, and we didn't know what to do. The creature started to move towards us, and we knew that we had to run. We turned and sprinted back to the villa, our hearts pounding in our chests. We could hear the creature behind us, chasing us, and we knew that it was getting closer. We finally made it back to the villa, and we quickly locked the doors and windows. We could still hear the creature outside, scratching at the walls, trying to get in. We were trapped, and we didn't know what to do. We were certain that we were going to die. But just as the creature was about to break through the door, it suddenly stopped. The scratching and the noise ceased, and we were left in silence. We didn't know what had happened, but we were too afraid to go outside and find out. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, too scared to sleep. The next morning, we woke up to find that the creature was gone, and the beach was back to normal. Well, sounds like it's time to book an Airbnb. But it would be safer just to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, my friends, Explorer X out.